on earth would somebody incorporate a harp into, and really build a harp into a standard rock band? Hi everyone! Today I'm going to be listening to another new band that I've never heard before. I guess it's one that has been mentioned on my channel, and that is Arcade Fire. Well, other than seeing the name on my channel from time to time, I don't know anything about it, so let's see what there is to learn about it and see if I can have a guess at what's ahead of me. But don't forget that you can always check out my Ko-fi and Patreon if you want to have access to everything that I do, both which is going to come here on YouTube, so you have early access to what's coming on YouTube, as well as the things that I cannot put on YouTube for various reasons like copyright issues and such. Anyway, Arcade Fire. Tunnels. Okay, this one is called Tunnels. Arcade Fire is a Canadian indie rock band from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. That's the land of Rush, isn't it? Consisting of husband and wife Win Butler and Regine Chassagnier. Not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that's my best try. Alongside Richard Reed Perry, Tim Kingsbury, and Jeremy Gara. Any of you who know this band, you can correct me on the name pronunciation if you want. All the band's studio albums have received nominations for Best Alternative Music Album at the Grammys. Funeral is widely considered by music critics to be one of the greatest albums of the 2000s. And Vlad told me that this song, whatever it is I'm listening to, Tunnels I guess, is the opening song for this album, Funeral. The band's work has also been named 3 times as a shortlist nominee for the Polaris Music Prize. The band has been described as indie rock, art rock, dance rock, and baroque pop. Interesting. They play guitar, drums, bass guitar, piano, violin, viola, cello, double bass, xylophone. Oh, by the way, double bass is not bass guitar. Double bass is like a monster oversized cello, and you play it standing up or sitting on a very high stool. Glockenspiel, keyboard, synthesizer, French horn, accordion, harp. Oh, harp. Full-size harp, I wonder? Mandolin and hurdy-gurdy. Wow, they run the gamut. And take most of these instruments on tour. They need a big van. The multi-instrumentalist band members switch duties throughout the shows. Well, this is going to be interesting. I wonder how many of these instruments are going to give their voices in this song. We'll see. So I hear piano, which sounds like a real acoustic piano to my ears. Either that or it's one of those really, really fancy, modern electric piano creations that companies are producing now. Like Yamaha even has an electric grand that sounds like the real deal. Anyway, and strings. I kind of like it. And it has this interesting little syncopated rising line. Da-dum, bum, 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 bum. Let's see if we can find it here. This kind of reminds me of something like the Piano Guys music. So this line that the piano is playing, bum 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 bum, and which is also being played by probably a guitar of something like that, is kind of our opening riff theme. I guess the thing that I enjoy about it is because it's a little bit reminiscent of what we find in Beethoven piano sonatas from time to time. He loves to do this, where we have this pattern going on, and the melody is going on, and then somewhere along the way he is going to throw us into a syncopated version of the melody, and it looks on paper and it sounds to our ears a good deal like what we hear in this intro. The little delicate, tinkly bit of piano at the top as well. Very pleasant sound mix. The voice, I'm listening to the way it blends, and I'm also trying to follow the lyrics here. If the snow buries my neighborhood and if my parents are crying, then I'll dig a tunnel from my window to yours. You climb out of the chimney and meet me in the middle. Leave it to Canadians to come up with something about snow, right? But it all has this sort of snowy, wintry world. Can I say warmth to it? Softness to it? The voice is very soft and I could even say fluffy like snow. And the music, it feels like maybe they're trying to paint this picture of a snow scene. It's not icy cold. It doesn't feel harsh. It feels like we are inside, or we are viewing this snowy landscape from a snowy world, from a comfortable place to be. The music is giving that quality as well. It's not just the lyrics. I'm going to back up and listen to this a little bit here. It's not really... I'm listening to the drums, and it's not really muffled, but at the same time there is a softness to the edges that is, we could say, kind of muffled quality. I don't mean muffled as in dampened. I mean muffled as in a little bit soft. And I guess that's what I'm picking up as being something that might portray or communicate this snowy world feeling. We let our hair grow long and forget all we used to know. And the bass is very warm. And our skin gets thicker from living out in the snow. You change all the sleeping in my head as the Nice mix of instrumentation.
Then we tried to name our baby, but we forgot all the names we used to know.
Is the piano rising up in its little theme?
But sometimes we remember bedrooms and our parents' bedrooms and the bedrooms of our friends.
It's not really a harmonically complex piece of music at all. There's this very consistent, straightforward progression, but it repeats. It's repeating throughout. And it also helps contribute to this feeling of warmth and kind of predictability, harmonic predictability, in a way that we feel, okay, it's time to move here, it's time to move here, now we move back, now we move here again, now we move here again, and now we come back around to the beginning, and we move. And these lyrics are kind of interesting the more we're going along. We tried to name our babies, we forgot all the names we used to know. But sometimes we remember our bedrooms and our parents' bedrooms. It's this idea of leaving home, perhaps a home that is not particularly joyful. Leaving home and building a life, a different life, together with somebody, and really living in a way that you've never lived before. Since there's no one else around, we let our hair grow long and forget all we used to know. Our skins get thicker from living out in the snow. It's an interesting way of expressing this. And then you change all the lead sleeping in my head. When we say that our head feels leaden, of course that's an expression that our head feels heavy, we're tired, or we don't feel like we can think clearly, or there's a weight within us. You change all the lead sleeping in my head. Interesting way of expressing this idea of perhaps leaving a life you knew and going to build a different life in a new way than you've ever done before. And it feels more true, more genuinely yourself, and you kind of forget the life you had before because you're so immersed. And it's as if, well, I haven't gotten to the end of the song yet, but I feel as if it's an expression of feeling good and satisfied in this new life, to the point where we forget what was before. We have a new world, a new existence that is so satisfying, so comfortable, so much our own, that the discomfort and the stresses of the past kind of fade in our memory. Let's see how it keeps going. You change all the lead sleeping in my head to gold. Yeah, it's like it's become a perfect golden life. But his voice starts to sound desperate. I don't hear this style of singing in rock music very often. This voice here. We hear the guitar doing the same thing the piano is doing without the piano. Interesting piece of music. I'm looking back to the beginning of the lyrics because as the music progressed, it wasn't just a feeling of warmth and comfort in this snowy world. I also got the sense that there was a kind of desperation, and I'm looking back to the beginning of the lyrics, and it starts out, "And if the snow buries my neighborhood, and if, then I'll dig a tunnel from my window to yours." And so perhaps this is not so much an expression of something that has happened, but more an expression of a dream, a hope to escape into a freer, better life. Perhaps that's where the desperation is coming from in the voice and in the music. Overall, though, I'm a bit intrigued by this piece of music because there are elements in here which I haven't heard very often in rock music. As I mentioned, that voice, which is singing in a clear bell-like tone rather than the more straight and forced sounding. That doesn't necessarily mean the voice is forced, but it's a more forced tone quality. Whereas this that we heard at the end, this, I haven't run across that kind of use of the voice in rock music very much at all. So that's one. Another is, well, of course, I have listened to some progressive rock which employs orchestral strings and more traditional instrumental mixes. But this one, of course, is using that as well. And I have to say that I find the sound, of course, very familiar, so easily comfortable, but at the same time, it's being used in a way that is also very traditional. There's very little about this music to make me think of it being a rock song, except for the drums. And I suppose that's what makes it be classified as rock something. Well, of course, in the sentences I read at the beginning, they're kind of, should it be indie rock, art rock, dance rock, baroque pop? And of course I don't know all of those terminologies, definitions well enough to say why it is this and this, but obviously it's associated with rock. And I think it's because of the drums. And there's a portion of it where it becomes very, very strong in the beat with the drums. A sort of driving, almost tank rolling across the landscape feel to it, where it's an inevitable, unavoidable force it's somewhere in here. And right about here, the drums get a little bit more compelling, we could say. The bass moving here also adds a little bit of sense of forward motion. And now they're picking up their pace, kind of chugging along. And now as the drum settles back into this boom, ching, 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 it somehow feels fuller, stronger, more assertive than the first time. It's very much in the front of the mix. But still it has this sort of softened, snowy edges quality to it. So now I'm curious. After listening to this piece of music, I'm thinking, how big is this genre within the rock umbrella? Of course, it's my first time meeting something like this. It has a very pleasant quality to it. It's very agreeable to the ears. It's a little bit pop-ish sounding. At least this particular piece of music. And at the same time, it doesn't sound what I would say trashy, cheap. It's a very attractive sort of pop style rock mix, which incorporates all of these acoustic and traditional instruments that are not particularly standard within the rock umbrella. I'm just going to say umbrella because I know it encompasses a vast variety, and I'm constantly discovering new little corners of it, new parts of it, filling in the map some more and more. And I'm fascinated by the way different groups employ not only instruments but and voice styles, as I mentioned here, but also the compositional style, and how all of this can be so easily adapted and modified for different tastes, different moods, different needs. And so even though this isn't any particularly profound piece of music, I enjoyed it because it is different than what I've heard, and as I said, it's a very comfortable, easy listen. I'm also intrigued by the incorporation of instruments. I didn't hear harp in this one, but I remember at the very beginning of my rock journey thinking, how on earth would somebody incorporate a harp into, and really build a harp into a standard rock band? I'm beginning to get some understanding of how it has been done. And I look forward to finding out, discovering more and more of how various instruments, traditional instruments, acoustic instruments, we could say classical instruments, or of course, mentioned the hurdy-gurdy here too, which is a very old instrument. All of these can be employed in this general rock sound. And this was an enjoyable experience for me, and I have learned, well, I kind of knew from the beginning, but I'm learning more and more that I shouldn't judge a band by one piece of music, or even 2 or 5. This is my first one that I've listened to by Arcade Fire, and I'm curious about a couple things. I'm curious if all of their music is in this easy listening style, or if perhaps they have some more developed music as well. I will probably return to them at some point in the future just to test out a few others and begin to form a picture of who and what they are. But this was my first one, and I enjoyed it. So I'll see you next time.